Yo, what it do, guys? It is your boy, Leon Mookie here, back with you with a new fanfic for you guys. And this one is, if you guys have checked my community tab, then I've been wanting to do something like this for a while now. Mainly because I've been having, just as I said, I've been having that of a high on that of Izuku Isekai fanfics lately. Like with one where he is the chosen undead from that of Dark Souls, one where he is the Dragonborn from Skyrim. So now I want to do one where he is the chosen Revenant from Code Vein. This is the Revenant Hero, a Code Vein / MHA fanfic story for you guys. Yep. Honestly, I feel like Code Vein deserves more love than it should get. Hell, and even though it didn't get much love because, again, it may be a Souls game, and normally Souls games always sell pretty damn well. It's basically an anime Souls game. And not only that, it's also tied to that of one of Bandai's obscure series known as God Eater, which I'm still waiting for God Eater 4, but doubtful we're going to get anything like that in the future. But I can at least try to hope. No, letting you guys now know, this chapter is mainly that of a, prologue chapter, explaining on how Izuku ended up in the world of Code Vein. So it's going to be that of a short chapter that basically goes through the entire plot of Code Vein. So letting you guys know this now. Also, I may get at least some terms here wrong, a little bit wrong here and there, mainly because I haven't played Code Vein in a long time. I may skip over some plot points as well. But even so, I still want to at least try and give it a shot. So, with all that said, let's get into this, shall we, guys? Chapter 0, the Quirkless boy turned Revenant. An ad of a tall, high-rise building. On that of a balcony lies that of a young man that looks at least that of 16, possibly 17 years old. As he looks at the sky, as it has that of a somewhat eternal sunset, as this young man is wearing that of a black suit with that of green highlights. But, however, it's basically zipping open, showing that of a black beater t-shirt. And not only that, around his neck looks like that of a amber-shaped crystal. Getting a better look at the young man, he has that of pale skin, and on his cheeks he has that of diamond-shaped freckles. And he also has that of pale white hair with that of green highlights, though, and on the edges of it, with his eyes still also green as well, as he having that of a smile. However, it all seems like that of a sullen smile as well. Within soon, somebody calling, saying, "Yo, Izuku, you ready?" Within, looking back, seeing that of a muscular young man that looks like at least that of his early 20s, as he looks like he's wearing that of combat pants and boots, while also wearing that of a gray sleeveless shirt, as his hair is basically tied, as he has crimson red hair that's tied into that of a ponytail, as having that of his left hand on that of his side, while raising up his right hand, with putting it down, and soon walking towards Izuku. Within, soon saying, "Yeah, I am. Just wanted to get one last look at this view, Yakumo. Who knows how long we're probably going to be gone." Within, soon, Yakumo couldn't help but, smirk before saying, "You make it sound like you were never probably going to come back." Within saying, "Well, the thing's out there. We've worked so hard to get this far. I just don't want it to go to waste, With then soon Yakumo saying, "True that. You're normally a lot more optimistic than this." With then soon looking at that of the charm, saying, "The amber blood bead? Yeah, the one last gift from her. With this, no Revenant will basically go into that of a blood frenzy ever again. And not only that, we were able to make at least out of a second one. I'm trusting that one to Jack at least. Within saying, still can't believe you're entrusting it with him, but I get it. Guy is more trustworthy than anyone else here, especially given all the crap that he's gone through just to keep the so-called peace after all, for all these years. Within, Izuku couldn't help but smile, saying, yeah. With then, Izuku wondering, you may be... Let's get going, Yakumo. Don't want to keep Louis, Mio, and also Morisame waiting after all. With then, Yakumo saying, right. Come on, let's get our gear and get going. After that, the two walk off. With then, Izuku began to speak, saying, my name is Izuku Midoriya, and I'm no normal person. Well, I used to be. Well, rather, I used to be an abnormal person back in my world. That's right, I come from another world. Back in my world, I, Izuku Midoriya, was known as a quirkless person. Why I was quirkless? Mainly because in my world, many people, basically 80% of the human population, gained a special ability. An ability that would basically genetically change the person's DNA. And soon after, every other human being began to be born with this DNA trait. It would be known as quirks. Except me. I never had a quirk. I was never born with it. I was basically unlucky to be considered quirkless. Since then, my life has basically been nothing but one living hell after another. Sure, I wasn't truly alone. I had my mother. She cared deeply about me, and she worried about me a lot, but she didn't understand the pain I was going through. It also didn't help that I was also keeping the secrets about me suffering in silence. Personally, she knew that I was suffering, but because I wanted to become strong for her, that she didn't do anything about it. Or rather, I didn't want her to do anything about it. And that's it. All this changed on a fateful day. I was on the beginning of our final year tour during my junior high. Everybody wanted to become heroes. In our world, people who use their quirks are either considered heroes or villains. Villains use their quirks for their own selfish reasons, either to hurt others, take what is not theirs, or do whatever they see pleased with them. While heroes are the ones who protect the innocent, defeat the villains, and save lives. Pro heroes are paid by the government and compensated, which is understandable. But even so, I wanted to be a hero just like them, even without a quirk. I didn't care about money or fame or glory. All I cared about was helping those in need, saving lives, protecting the innocent. That's all I've ever wanted in my life. But all that changed. Everybody ridiculed me for my dream. Everybody basically was beneath me because of my dream. Everybody basically didn't care a damn thing about me. And every time when I tried to bring up my own dream and wanted to become a hero, I was basically beaten, looking down, seen as trash by everybody else around me. Even my former childhood friend, Katsuki Bakugo, basically looked down upon me as well. He always threatened me, beating me, and basically treating me like shit on a daily. I hated it. All I wanted was to go back to how we used to be. Like the friends we used to be, always stood side by side with one another. And yet, because his quirk was so powerful, was so rare and so heroic, as people like to call it, he got the ego saying that he was the best, that he was destined for greatness, destined to be the number one hero. Even I believe that he would be a great hero too. If you have a strong, flashy, and powerful quirk, then you're always destined to be a hero. That's how it always is in my world. That's how the media sees it. That's how the government sees it, right? That's how it's always been. And I've accepted it too. Until that one day where my best friend basically took one of my prized notebooks, a notebook that I normally use to write down in the study and analyzation of people's quirks, threw it out the window, and then threatened me that if I ever go to the same school as him, the same hero school, and apply for the entrance exam, he would kill me. Even made a threat that if I ever, even told me that if I ever wanted to quirk if I ever wanted a quirk, all I had to do was basically jump off my school rooftop and commit suicide. Back then, I basically despised that. I hated it, but I just thought it was just regular teasing. I just thought if it was just friends just messing with a friend or trying to look out for me. How naive I was. Even my naiveness continued on. All I wanted was to become that of a hero. As long as I worked hard, analyzed quirks, and basically keep on having that of a positive attitude, I would be able to become a hero, no matter what. But all that changed. All of that truly changed when a villain caught me and tried to kill me and try to take my body. The reason I say try to take my body is because he was a sledge villain. A villain completely made out of sledge and liquid, trying to hide from that of a pro hero that I was chasing after him a little while ago. But that pro hero was no ordinary pro. It was the number one pro hero of our country. The man that inspired me to also want to be a hero. The one that basically inspired an entire generations of heroes year after year. That being the number one pro hero, the symbol of peace, All Might. He saved me. He saved me from the sledge villain. I was lucky to be saved by my idol and the number one and the pro of pros, as people like to say, as All Might has made an impact not just in Japan but almost all across the world. Because of that, I couldn't help want to ask the question if it was possible for somebody like me to be a pro hero. If I, even without a quirk, I basically latched onto him without warning and basically need to ask that question. On top of a rooftop, I poured everything out to him. I begged him, asked him if it was possible for somebody like me to become a hero. And yet, I saw his true form. A scrawny, weak man. A man that basically used to smile to keep everyone reassured, but now smiles as a fake smile. A fake smile that hides away his own fear. Even showed that of a grotesque and gnarly injury that basically caused him to not even be in the public as much as he used to be, because it weakened his quirk as well. And because of this, he told me those words, that it's impossible to become a hero. As he says this, I didn't bother looking around, but if I noticed a little better, I found out that All Might was checking to see if he still had the sledge villain. Luckily, he still did, and left me on that rooftop. He buffed up once again and soon just left me there with no warning. If he stayed just a little bit longer, or possibly even just walk past me or go down the stairs, he would have noticed. I basically was stunned, broken, shocked, and decided to take up Kachan's famous words, to take a swan dive off the roof. And during that, I was planning to end my own life. And that's exactly what I thought I was doing. But instead, I didn't. But instead, I found myself in a whole other place, a whole other world. A city completely and utterly destroyed. Basic roads defiled, crumbled, broken, and me completely and utterly unaware of where I am. Until I found her, a pale white-skinned young woman, wearing that of a white dress that barely covers anything, but still, with white hair, and wearing that of a gray cloak that covers her. Little did I know that this person would be the most important person in my life. The most important person that basically gave me a reason to continue living on, besides just doing the right thing, as I always just wanted to do was to protect people. This girl would be known as Io to me, the one person I would give my heart and soul for, as she did for me. During this time, I didn't know anything on where I was. I thought that I was basically transported to that of a different city, a city that was probably destroyed by a villain, and currently the heroes were basically trying their best to find civilians. And Io was one of those civilians that was also trying to survive. But that wasn't the case at all. I was basically in a whole different world. A whole other world where quirks didn't exist. Where heroes didn't exist, villains didn't exist, but the ideas of might makes right and power still remained. Not only that, I also felt a difference within me. I didn't feel like just myself anymore. I felt a hunger not just for food, but for something more. Something liquid, something red, something like blood. At this moment, I didn't know. Until then, I became a Revenant. It also didn't help that my memories were also a bit shot at the same time as well. I didn't know what was going on and what was happening. During this time, I was taken in by that of certain Revenant corps that needed some workers. They held Io on hostage just so I could basically do their job for them. I hated that, but as long as it meant protecting her, that's all that mattered. I also had help from at least a few other people too. It's also where I met that of one of my closest friends, a guy by the name of Louis, who played pretty much of a pretty major role, to be honest, during this time in the jail, as this was the place that was known as the jail, the place I was sent to at the time. One of the Revenants I worked with basically frenzied and turned into that of a lost, a powerful one at that. I was hesitant back then, hesitant on basically killing anybody. I didn't want to, but I had to. If it meant surviving, it hurt. It basically hurt me. Not just physically, but mentally. Just killing somebody. But I realized that I'm in a world where survival is more important than basically morality. But even so, Louis was a good guy. I could tell, mainly because he didn't want to hurt those, and he didn't want to hurt those. He wanted to protect and probably save as many people as he could, just like me. When meeting Louis, I also met with that of Yakumo, same guy as before, former mercenary soldier actually. So I had to tag along with with Louis, thinking that if he helps him out, he may be able to find out more about his own memories, and also he was mainly tagging with us so he can find his comrades, basically his childhood friends that grew up in the same orphanage as him. As for me, I tagged along with Louis because if working with him, I'll be able to help as many people as I can, even if I'm in a different world. Not only that, possibly while searching for a way to help those in need and finding that of blood beads. Speaking of blood beads, they're basically the thing that keeps that of Remnant from going crazy. Normally, we all need blood. Human blood can work as well, but blood beads are a perfect substitute that can hold that of a Remnant's frenzy for literal months after time. But after that frenzy, once you go lost, you can't go back. Killing a lost is basically a mercy kill, to be honest, as I like to say. During my journey throughout this world known as the jail, I began to realize more and more about the world. That humans are basically are basically taken by certain remnants that are so desperate to feed that they are even willing to kidnap innocent people just so they can do so. Some remnants are basically willing to murder other remnants for blood beads or any other way and form as well. In this world, it was basically completely lawless, even though that there were some people in charge of keeping the law and order of the jail, known as Cerberus, or the provisional government as they like to call. But they basically have that of a blood tax. They take blood beads from that of Revenant civilians, while also keeping all the humans away from that of other Revenants. Izuku can respect the reason why, but it feels like there was still so much that they weren't telling them. Something that it kept on bugging Izuku as time went on. It was during the first time where a Revenant that Izuku killed. Izuku had the ability to basically see through other people's memories, actually. Known as spike crystal fragments that try to take over a Revenant's body and memories, known as vestiges. These vestiges, Izuku is able to see through them, see the memories of basically past Remnants who have either died or who are still around, but soon after. Once Izuku touches the vestiges, he releases the sealed memories of Remnants who are even still alive at the time as well, able to see their memories and able to have them fully understand. He helped out Louis and Yakumo from time to time with this. It was also during this time that Louis realized that he remembers a childhood friend of his, and also remembered helping out a few other people as well, that he still wanted to help those in need, but he kept his distance while doing so as well, not wanting to feel like he is the reason for their deaths as well. The reason on why vestiges exist is because when a Remnant dies, they leave behind their memories, parts of their memories behind as well, forcing them to forget either themselves or other key moments of their lives as well, and key figures too. Turns out Louis was connected to a girl by the name of Cruz, who was considered to be one of the first Remnants, but turns out she was more than just one of the first. She was a special type of Remnant. During this time, we also encountered that of a special Remnant, a Remnant that was basically considered to be the biggest criminal or biggest villain known to man in the jail. This villain was known as the Hunter, or later on I would basically know him as Jack, a former Revenant soldier. He was to the people. Turns out, to everybody, to all the Remnants and humans all across the jail, he began to kill Remnants indiscriminately. People calling him that are terrified and scared of him. Some Remnants basically try their best to kill him to stop the indiscriminate killing, but the guy's too skilled and too powerful. So some people always try their best to basically steer clear of him, but easier said than done. It was the first time when meeting that of Jack and also his accomplice, otherwise a woman by the name of Eva, actually. Back then, I didn't know what Jack and Eva were doing back then. I just took the words of Louis and Yakumo and the others for facts, because I didn't know anything about this world at the time. Little did I know, that was far from the truth, to be honest. It was also during another expedition I met with that of another Remnant, sibling Revenant actually, a girl by the name of Mia, and her younger brother, Nicola, who was on the verge of frenzying and turning into a loss, actually. We ended up giving them at least a blood bead or two. However, it seemed like it wouldn't even work for Nicola, that he's already on the verge of turning into one, even with the blood bead. Izuku, on the other hand, didn't want that they can at least try and help and figure out some way to stop it before it's too late. But Neo, not wanting to be even more in debt to them, basically decided to figure things out herself. Mainly because she still didn't trust them. And couldn't blame her. We're in a world like this. Trust is basically hard to come by. Unfortunately, speaking of that trust, Neo would basically place it in our hands, mainly because Jack showed up once again and killed her brother. At the same time, when Neo was basically distraught, seeing that holding her brother's ashes in her hands, she was close to frenzying as well. We were able to stave off her frenzy, and since then, she became a companion mainly just so So one day when she found Jack again, she would kill him with her own two hands to avenge her brother's death. It was during this time we could found out of a lead to that of the spring where all blood beads were all come from. We needed to take this chance at all costs. So we took the risk. However, during this time, something began to affect me. I began having glimpses and fractions and fragments of memories that weren't even mine though. But I was there, and I can remember them. And the most vivid one was that I knew Jack. It's like I've met him before, and I was close with him. Almost like that. We were comrades. Even though I never met him in my entire life. I've never spoken to him, seen him, or even talked to him even once. So how can I remember him? Until, as we were nearing to the end of the labyrinth, I began to have this true influx of memories that truly weren't mine. These memories was that of another remnant, a remnant that was in the same Cerberus squad as Jack. This squad was basically involved with taking down the Queen. The Queen, you may ask? Well, turns out it was the most powerful and most dangerous remnant of all. And it was the reason behind so much bloodshed and cost as well. Mainly because of the boar parasite. What was the boar parasite? Turns out a powerful parasite that basically attaches to that of a living host, mainly towards that of the heart, and is able to regenerate and revive the host to keep them from basically suffering fatal injuries. The provisional government basically wanted to weaponize this parasite and turn it into that of super soldiers. They basically even fed one boar parasite in every form of animal and creature all across the world and implanted it into Cruz. The same Cruz that was Louis's friend back in his memories before all of this craziness happened. She became the Queen, frenzied, and basically went on an undeniable, unprovoked, and uncrazy killing spree, killing humans and remnants alike. No discrimination whatsoever. And that's where the Cerberus squad came in. The Cerberus squad was also led by that of Cruz's father, Silva. Originally, he was against his daughter from even taking part in that of the boar parasite experimentation, but she wanted it mainly wanted to help those in need. But because of the experimentation and the queen boar parasite that was inside of her body, it was too much for her, causing her to become the queen itself. But soon, both Jack and the Revenant that Izuku inherit the memories of, alongside that of Silva, ended the Queen once and for all. However, little did we know, the Queen was basically unkillable. Unlike normal Revenants, even if they become a lost, as long as you destroy the Remnant, destroy their hearts, where the boar parasite basically lies, they can never regenerate, and they'll stay dead forever. But the Queen, on the other hand, since becoming that of a special type of boar parasite, and had that of unusual and unnatural powers, they decided to basically seal away her powers by giving them to select remnants who have the potential to basically hold on to these powers. They would be known as successors. It turns out one of those very successors lies into the very labyrinth that Izuku and the others are currently in. In this labyrinth, turns out two successors basically lie there. One being those who worked on the boar parasite experimentation for remnants. One being that of Louis' sister, Karen, and her partner, Aurora. Aurora was basically close to becoming that of was frenzy and basically turning into the Lost, actually. But thanks to Izuku, Louis, Yahiko and Mia, we were able to stop. They were able to stop her from going truly berserk, mainly because of Izuku. Turns out, Izuku inherited turns out that of the soldier that basically inherited the queen's powers from that. Given that Jack actually killed his comrade who was infected by the queen at the time. However, the power had to go somewhere, and it didn't go into that of the Revenant that died, but it went into somebody else that was close on the verge of death from another world, that being Izuku. Since coming to this realization, Izuku realized that there's so much more to this world, and since he's able to basically touch vestiges where no other remnant can, he began to go on that of a scavenger quest to find more and more vestige stones, to look through the memories. Turns out he found more and more of that of Karen and Aurora's memories, mainly Aurora's, finding out about that of the successors, and how she and Karen became a successors as well. And now, knowing this, Izuku told Louis and the others about the situation and about what's going on, about what's really going on now. Completely and utterly shocked about this. But then, even Mio began to come to the realization that maybe, just maybe, the reason on why her brother died is because he was chosen to be that of a successor. Wanting to know that this was true, they basically head to that of the last known location when that of Nia and Nicola basically, set out, and where Nicola met Jack actually. During this time, Izuku went through that of Mia's memories, and not just her memories, but the memories of a woman who basically took care of her and her brother, allowing Mia to basically move through that of her past trauma of not being able to trust people, but now fully able to trust those around her as not just friends, but also family. Seeing Izuku more than just that of a comrade now. She even began to fall for him too, but decides to keep it to herself, not wanting to ruin their dynamic after all. Now knowing the truth about the successors is thanks to Izuku, Aurora, and Karen as well. Their main goal is not just to find that of the spring, but also find the other successors, and possibly, maybe, find a way to save them as well. Mainly from this is Izuku's point of view. He wants to save the successors. He wants to find a way to bring them back to normal, free them from that of the queen's power, without having the queen basically come back to life again. The next successor that they found was actually Nicola, Mia's little brother, who instead turns out Nicola that she's been trying to protect and keep close was actually a clone, mainly to keep an eye on that of his sister to still stay by her side while he remained that of his successor in secret at one of the crypts after all. During this time, Mia basically goes through hell, not being able to protect her brother, but also finding out that her brother didn't even need protection, given the fact that he has been protecting her all this time. However, just like that of Aurora, being a successor though, he was already coming too close to the edge of frenzying, having to defeat him while also calming the power of the queen as well. They were able to do so while also going through that of Nicola's memories. Doing so gave him back his humanity as a remnant, but soon which it basically led that to 3 down, and only that's a 5 more to go. Speaking of remnants, turns out Eve, one of Jack's companion, basically came to that of our base at the time, close to frenzying and almost looked like she was about to attack us. Izuku, alongside Louis, didn't care about that. Even Io as well, deciding to help her from getting out of her frenzy. Eve basically decided to tell the truth about Jack and her and what she's been doing. How originally she used to be that of a human that was taken by that of remnants. They're basically desperate for blood. However, because she was basically However, as a form of punishment for defying them, they basically crushed her windpipe, unable to speak, scream, or even sing, given that Eva back in the day was an amazing singer before the calamity. However, Jack ended up saving her, which in turn finding out that she would end up becoming one of the successors of the queen. Even finding out the truth that Jack was also became a successor himself, a successor that mainly keeps an eye on other successors once those successors began to go into frenzies and would plan on either soothing, with Eva's help, either soothing them, or if that doesn't work, killing them, causing the power to move on to somebody else. So in reality, Jack was basically, was mercy killing all of the remnants who would become successors, who weren't ready, or either weren't strong enough to hold on to the powers of the queen. Now knowing the truth, Izuku wanted to help Jack even more and tell him that there's possibly another way outside of just ending the lives of fellow remnants, especially now finding out a way that they're able to get back their humanities. But before that, they have another problem. Besides convincing Jack, they have to stop another successor from going on his own plans as well. A man by the name of Dr. Mito. Who is Dr. Mito? Well, you could say that in Izuku's term, he is the true villain of villains. Basically, he was the one behind the entirety of the Boar Parasite Project, otherwise known as the Queen Project. The same project that Louis' friend Cruz was a part of, and didn't just stop with her. Behind closed doors, Mito was basically experimenting with that of similar boar parasites to the queen onto other test subjects too. To Mito, the power of the queen could lead to true everlasting immortality, and that's exactly what the bastard wants more than anything. He's also the reason behind Yakumo losing his comrades and his memories as well. During this time, Izuku began to help out Yakumo get his memories back bit by bit from his vestiges. It was also during this time that Izuku realized that Mito had a major part to play in that of Yakumo's comrades disappearing one by one. Turns out he manipulated and basically lied to everybody. First, when Yakumo had that of a fatal injury, he had to be turned into that of a remnant, and was basically put into that of a deep sleep so his body could acclimate to the boar parasite. But during this time, while his comrades were basically Mito's puppets, tools for him to complete his jobs for his little experiments. One by one, each one of Yakumo's comrades and friends basically were nothing but tools for him, all except one, a young woman by the name of Emily, who, just like that of the others, even Mito himself, became a successor. Turns out, Mito was planning on stealing the other powers of all of the queens from the successors, already taken the ones that Jack and Eva have been collecting to find while they were basically trying to find worthy other successors. Not wanting the mad scientists to get ahead of them, they had to go and protect that of Yakumo's old friend, Emily, as just like the others, she was also being close to frenzying as well. But on the way there, he also gathered up her vestiges and was even able to give her back her memories too. While at the same time, Izuku also gave her and Yakumo at least the time that they needed to finally be able to speak with one another after all these years. After that, Yakumo was in Izuku's debt and would always be by his side, as not just as his friend, but also as a big brother figure as well, if he ever needed it. However, a celebration like this wouldn't last forever, as Mito, as I said before, was a successor, possibly even a more powerful successor, given that he surprisingly still has his humanity, was even toying with almost everybody in the group as well, even Izuku. Hell, The one thing that he was more curious about was Izuku himself as well, mainly because he was one of the successor. He has the queen's power, and yet he's not a successor. The most important thing is that he's never seen him before in his life. As to him, he's aware of, because of the queen's power, he's aware of almost every revenant all across the prison as well. Izuku is a revenant, but not a normal revenant, which makes him even more curious and intrigued by the green net young man. However, I would say continually green net, given that as during this adventure, his hair begins to slowly begin turning white, mainly more as a side effect of him constantly using vestiges and returning the memories back to others. By doing this, it begins to basically siphon away at Izuku's life force as a revenant. And that this is not supposed to happen to anybody after all. But Izuku doesn't care, as he'll continue to help as many people as he can, even if it means costing his life. Even though that's the ideas of what a hero should be. With Mito hearing this, calling Izuku a naive, childish, and idealistic fool. But if he thinks he can play the hero, then possibly he can try and save that of Eva. For example, he basically gave her that of a special serum, a drug that would basically force Eva to frenzy, basically about to lose her powers as that of a successor, wanting to save her not just because she became that of his friend, but also for Jack's sake as well, as he still has the memories of the remnants of the body remnant that he took over coming to this world. He remembers being close to Jack as comrades, friends, even though he killed his former comrade to keep the powers of the queen at bay. The memories don't feel like that of a sense of betrayal or loneliness or pain like how Izuku felt when it came to all of his friends, and even that of Bakugo betraying him when becoming Quirkless. To the remnant soldier, it felt like that of a thank you to a friend for keeping him still a human and remnant before becoming a monster. Because of this, Izuku already collected all of the vestiges of Eva's memories after all, and was able to give her back, causing her from not only that from giving back her humanity and memories, but also was able to prevent her from completely frenzying and losing her powers as a successor as well. Hell, even during this time, Eva was even able to finally confess her feelings for Jack as well. With the gang basically all together now, all was one thing left to do: end Mito's schemes once and for all, and prevent any more suffering. However, that was easier said than done, given that he basically sent that of his custom-made lost remnant onto us, which facing against them were basically tough as hell. Soon, he began to fully explain on why he would do all this. Just once again, absolute power. Hell, originally, Izuku thought that he planned on reviving the queen after all. That wasn't the case at all. Originally, he used that of the relics, the power that hold the power of the queens of the successors, and send them to that of Silva, the last successor, forcing him to fully turn frenzy and then turn into that of a lost, which basically brought down that of the red barrier, the same barrier that was basically keeping the prison intact, actually. Turns out, outside of the prison lies that of monsters, dangerous, powerful monsters, beyond even that of Remnant and Lost as a whole. This was the main reason on why Mito basically wanted the Remnants, not for immortal power, not just for that of the power itself or immortality, nothing like that, but he wanted to understand these creatures. Because that of the red mist was keeping everybody safe from them. Mito wants to basically study them and try to control them and fuse them possibly with that of humanity, just like that of the boar parasite. Hearing that of the madness from that of this man, Izuku, Louis, Yakumo, Mia, Eva, and Jack wanted to put an end to this man once and for all. The battle was tough, but they were able to put an end to the mad scientist's mad ravings for infinite power. Not only that, doing so, defeating Mito also gave Silva at least a chance to get, being that of a successor, he was able to get out of his lost form and still hold on to that of his humanity, bringing up that of the red veil in the prison being safe once again. But even though Silva was able to get back his consciousness, that won't last forever. Hell, because of this, everybody began to wonder what they should do next, until Izuku made a proposal about him being the next taking Silva's spot as the next successor, keeping that of the veil up as long as he can and protecting as many people as he would have. He was willing to sacrifice himself to do so. However, turns out the others, on the other hand, weren't so willing to do so. Everybody was basically telling you that Izuku, what he was saying and trying to do, was completely and utterly stupid. They'll figure out another way without sacrificing their little green-haired buddy, after all. Which, easier said than done, figuring out a situation. Or was it? Turns out there was one person that was able to do this. That being Io. The same Io that was with Izuku from the very beginning when he came to this world. The same Io that was always by his side. Not only that, throughout this time, Io was actually an attendant. An attendant created by that of crews to help those of the successors to maintain and protect their powers, after all. Even though Izuku wasn't technically a successor, but had the power of the queen, though, he did gain that of his own attendant, being Io. During this time, while Izuku was basically absorbing vestiges after vestiges, seeing everybody's memories, their feelings, their emotions, their regrets, their joys, she began to feel emotions for herself, not wanting to stay on the sidelines forever, wanting to be by that of Izuku's side and protect him, not just staying by his side to comfort him if he ever lost his life, but wanting to be there for him, to always stay by his side and protect him, even love him if need be. For Izuku, this was completely and utterly caught off guard, wondering on why she would love him. During this time, she began to admire Izuku's determination, wanting to save those in need, even people who were either complete and total strangers, his former enemies, or even those who don't even seem like they want to be helped at all. She began to fall for Izuku's genuine kindness, to just want to help and save those in need, even with no reward in return. For that, she would do anything for him and to protect him as well. Because of this, she now found out that there is a way to save everybody, by coming to the realization that she needs to do something more important. Heading to the provisional government building, where Silva, even though gaining back his humanity and his will, he's still on the verge of frenzying once again, with now wanting to put an end to the former commander. Even Jack, seeing his former commander, his former leader, basically are on the verge of madness, with even Izuku wanting to find some way to save him without having to kill him. However, he realized something. Silva never lost his memories. Not once. He's basically encountered a vestige that basically tied to Silva once. It frustrated Izuku. It pissed him off that he wouldn't be able to save this one man. Within, Io basically convincing him that killing him is a way to saving him. With now the group facing against Silva, as he's basically gone into his lost form once again, trying to take him down as fast as they can. However, not wanting to go down without a fight, he ends up absorbing all of the other powers of the relics of the successors as well, he becomes the queen just like his daughter. As the fight continues going on even more, to the point that Izuku was almost close to that of dying multiple times, not wanting to Izuku to experience the same pain as them as losing their memories. Everybody else finds a way to defend Izuku and protect him, with allowing him to deal the final blow onto that of Queen Silva. Now seeing the perfect opportunity, Izuku deciding to take the chair to become the next successor and queen, to keep everybody safe. However, while at the process of doing this, Io decides to take it, with Izuku completely and utterly shocked and surprised, seeing the one person that generally loved him for him, not for being a quirkless person, not for being a weak person, but for being just Izuku Midoriya, basically being taken away from him, while he was unable to do anything to save her. While taking in all of the powers of the queen, she, instead of becoming the queen itself, she becomes a new blood spring known as the Weeping Tree. With this blood spring, it was a lot more stronger and more powerful to basically spread blood beads all across the prison, even giving that of two special blood beads for Izuku. However, even so, with this departing gift, it still broke Izuku down to his core, losing Io, losing that one person that basically was part of his, that basically was always there for him coming to this world, now gone as well. Now with that of Io becoming the one only successor, other successors are no longer needed anymore, basically allowing them to go back into that of their Revenant form, back into their Revenant human forms after all. So Aurora, Karen, Nicola, Emily, and even Mito, if he was still alive, would have gone back to normal actually, which causing everybody to become at least somewhat happy and excited. That's all of it's actually finally over. It took a while for Izuku to come to the realization that he lost Io. Hell, Mia was even able to get him out of his funk as well. Even that of one of their other companions, being Coco, who was somewhat like that of a secondary mother figure for Izuku in this world. During his time, while still being here, he began to take on at least a couple of jobs that was causing quite a bit of trouble for remnants and humans all across the prison. BT Dubs, these were the DLC expansion missions of Code Vein after all. The Frozen Empress, the Hellfire Knight, and the Lord of Thunder. And taking on these jobs basically took almost an entire year for Izuku. However, doing this while also helping out remnants all across the prison and humans alike, Izuku was known as the hero, the remnant hero to all. After that, Izuku and everybody else things got a little bit more peaceful. Well, even though people are still had to fight against that of loss after all, and still had to frame up that of frenziness. But even so, with thanks to Io, blood beads are basically plentiful all across the city after all, which leads to that of Izuku wanting to think of one thing left, possibly finding a way back home. When it was pretty crazy, everybody was a little bit, freaked out that the fact that Izuku actually came from another world entirely. Yakumo basically thought that Izuku was completely losing it and thinking that he basically took a lot of inspiration from isekai anime, but realizing the fact that Izuku was telling the truth, given that the things that he talked about in his own world felt way too realistic that it wouldn't make any sense. Or the credibility stuck thanks to Jack. Jack basically filled everybody in, given that Izuku had the memories of his former comrade, the same comrade that he had to end up killing. More thankful that Izuku was able to inherit his friend's memories, and figure out that he still lives on within inside of Izuku. After that, Izuku deciding now wanting to find a way back home. The only way to do so is possibly through that is to leave the prison and outside of the blood mist. Now, but still figuring out the city still needs somebody to protect everybody. Izuku decided to give the second amber blood bead given to him by that of Io to Jack as a sign showing that he trusts everybody's safety with him. He may have been called the Hunter by everybody else out of fear, but now possibly the word Hunter will mean something different. No longer a word and title of him being a mindless killer to others, but is actually a true hero to all. With that, Jack wanting to live up to the kid's ideas in what he sees in him. And now we reach the present time where Izuku, alongside Yakumo, is finally reached that of one of the entrants outside of the Blood Veil. Within seeing that of three familiar faces, being Louis, Mia, and Morisame. Within the red-haired girl with that of the black, wearing that of a green jacket and cloak, and that of a long sleeve coat basically wrapped around her shoulder, saying, "Took you guys long enough? Seriously, what were you guys doing?" Within soon, Yakumo couldn't help but say, Sorry. I had to make sure to get this guy. Too busy basically reminiscing after all." Within, Izuku couldn't help but laugh, saying, "Yeah, sorry, guilty as charged." Within, Louis couldn't help but cross his arms, but not as annoyed or anything like that, but somewhat, but just more in a way of laughing to himself, saying, "I can't blame you. Who knows how long we're probably going to be gone after all. I hope you got enough of the view after all, to be honest." Within, Izuku saying, "Oh, I did. Trust me." Within, soon, Izuku saying, "But you guys sure you want to tag along with me? I mean, who knows how long it's going to be until I find a way back home, but what if you guys get dragged into me?" Within, soon, Mio saying, "Don't worry. Even if it does happen, we'll have no regrets. Besides, we're mainly on this journey to help you out, Izuku. So, don't be afraid. Remember, you can always rely on us." Within, Izuku looking at Mio couldn't help but smile, saying, even under that of his purification mask, saying, "Thanks, Mio. I'm glad you guys are by my side." Within, Mio couldn't help but blush through under her mask too, before then looking away, as then heading to that of the red veil, bringing up that of his blood bead necklace. Within, soon an opening appears. Within, saying, This is going to be one hell of a trip. Hopefully, it won't be a long one. So, you guys ready?" Within, everybody looking at Izuku with that of a smile, before saying, "All right, let's go." As they take the step outside of the veil, little did they know, they would all be engulfed in a bright white light. Within, a one voice saying, You won't be alone, Izuku. I'll be by your side, always, now and forever, just as I promise, even in your own world." And that's it. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please tell me what you guys think in the comments below. Let's read them. So, how did you guys like the prologue? Like I said, I basically had to go through the entire plot of Code Vein entirely, while also adding Izuku's points of view as well. And yeah, besides that of Io falling in love with Izuku, there's also Mia as well, and one girl from MHA as well too, but you'll have to wait and see until you see her though. So yeah, hope you guys like this, because next chapter we'll be getting into Izuku arriving back into the world of MHA. So, with all that said, hope you guys enjoyed this. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell notification key to date my videos on the channel. Also, please check out my Discord, gaming channel, main channel, other channel, Patreon, and Cash App. All link in description below. So, with all that said, this is Leon Mookie, signing out. Later, guys, and hope you all Take care.